Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of my video on question 3 on paper 2 of the AQA GCSE English language exam. So in part 1 we did the lowdown on what you have to do for the question, and we looked at an example source and question. I've just given you the flowchart for the paragraphs for this question, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we put that paragraph flowchart into practice. So if we consider the question that we were given about how the writer expresses their disbelief in ghosts or paranormal investigations, okay, this is how I would use that paragraph flowchart to write a paragraph for that question. So we need to start with the discourse marker, so obviously it makes sense to start with firstly, seeing as this is the first paragraph. So what we need to do is we need to explain to the examiner what the writer actually does, okay? So we've said, firstly, the writer of source B is cynical of the results obtained from paranormal investigations, okay? So we're explaining to the examiner, we know what the writer is telling us. Then I've said this is clear when he uses the negative adjectives, unscientific and unproven. Okay, so I've actually embedded my quote within the sentence there, and I've also mentioned word class, so I've explained that both of these are adjectives. Okay, so we're ticking the box for the examiner there, okay, for the level 4 answer. And I said to describe the validity of the experiment's results. So actually embedding the quote just shows a greater level of sophistication. Okay, so we've done our point and our quote, so we've mixed those in, we've mentioned word class as well, okay? We don't need to worry about language features because the language itself, the fact that we've said adjectives, ticks the box for language analysis. Then what we have to do is we have to define what the word or words are. Now obviously we've got the adjectives unscientific and unproven, okay, but in order for us to explain what unproven means, we need to explain what proven means. Now proven is a verb, okay, so here I've said the verb proven means to demonstrate the truth of something, and any experiment conducted in a scientific manner is usually based on facts, okay? So I've taken one of the words in my quote and I've defined what the word, or rather what the opposite of that word means. And the reason why I've done that is then because we need to explain why the writer has used the prefix un, okay? Now the repeated use of the prefix un suggests that the writer of the text believes that the results of the investigations are wholly unreliable and false, as opposed to being based on the truth. Because the prefix un switches the meaning of that verb, okay? It actually is the opposite. So unproven is the opposite of proven, okay? So we've actually mentioned to the examiner as well that we understand that un is a prefix and what is suggested by the use of that. Then we need to do what the effect on the reader is. So what's the writer's intention behind using these two phrases, these two words rather. The writer's intention is to create doubt in the reader's mind as to whether they can trust the results of any paranormal investigation, thus supporting his view that they are fake, okay? So always considering why has the writer included that word or words, okay? Because they've included them for a reason. It's to make you feel a certain way, okay? This is the hugely important bit, so really considering what the effect of those words are. Now that's a single paragraph. You would need to do that 4 to 5 times in order to write an answer for this question. So what I've got for you now is a full practice answer, and I'm going to show you a full mark sample answer for this question in just a moment. You can get this as a download, a free download from my website, asiaexams.wordpress.com. Excuse me. And the question that is relevant to this source is, how does the writer use language to describe the elephant man? Okay, so if you want to pause the video and have a go at it now, then that's great practice. Just pause now and I'm just going to go through the sample answer in just a moment. Okie dokie, so hopefully you paused the video and had a go yourself. If not, that's fine. Have a read through and see how it can help you write your own answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in just a bit so you can see this in a little bit more detail. Okay, right. So as I said, you can get this as a free download from a website. And let's go through. I'm just going to go through 1 or 2 paragraphs with you just so you can see how that flowchart works in practice. Obviously, you can read the rest in your own time. What I would advise doing for this question is writing an opening statement, okay? And in that opening statement, I would explain how the writer uses language in the source. So what is the intention of the writer? Now in this source, Frederick Traves, who's the writer, uses descriptive language to inform the reader about John Merrick's medical condition and life, okay? He also employs a variety of language features in an attempt to persuade the reader that Merrick is unworthy of dignity and respect. So immediately what you're doing by writing a simple opening statement like that is you are telling the examiner that you understand what the intentions of the writer are. Okay, so that's a big tick in the box straight away. Now what we need to do in each paragraph is explain to the examiner which language features and which specific words do those things. Okay, so I start my answer like this. Firstly, Traves uses a simile to suggest that John Merrick is treated like an animal. So I've taken the language feature simile and I've explained how this specific simile is used. So what does it do? The writer states that the showman spoke to the man as if to a dog. Excuse me. So we've included our quote as an embedded quote. So again, that's showing a higher level of sophistication. So then we need to define, okay? The deliberate choice of animal implies that Merrick is treated like a pet. So I've actually considered the use of that animal. So he could have said as if to an elephant, okay? Or as if to a hamster, but he didn't. He chose dog. Now we need to really think about the word that obviously a dog as an animal and what they do. So I've said he's treated like a pet because dogs often are. He's expected to obey instructions, be loyal to his master and submit to his will. Okay, so this is where the suggestion comes in as well. It is evident that the man has little or no control over his own life. That's my own inference. I have sat there and I've thought, what does a dog do? And does he have any control? No, because his master controls him. The simile suggests that Merrick's life is not his own, much like the other exhibits in the circus. So we've done our define and imply, and here's where we put the effect, fostering compassion and sympathy in the reader. Okay, it makes us feel sympathy for John Merrick, okay? So simple effect on the reader at the end. Right, let's have a look at the next one then. So the next paragraph, obviously I've used the discourse marker secondly. You could use something else if you wanted to. But I've said secondly, Traves uses language to imply that Merrick is a science experiment. Okay, so here we haven't got a specific language feature, but what we've then said is the noun, so we've mentioned the word class, the noun specimen, which is used to describe Merrick himself, suggests that onlookers believe him to be an object for study and display. That's what specimen means. If you look up specimen in the dictionary, that's what it means. That's our define, okay? Indeed, Traves comments that Merrick is the most disgusting specimen of humanity, emphasises his belief that the man is non-human, okay? The adjective disgusting, so again we've got another tick in the box for word class. The adjective disgusting implies that Traves is repulsed by what he sees, thus creating, okay, effect on the reader here, an evocative image in the reader's mind. The frank description of Merrick's appearance enables the reader to comprehend the full extent of his disability, in that nothing can be compared to such a monstrosity. So you will see that that paragraph doesn't quite fit the order of the paragraph flowchart. But what it does is it actually ticks every single bit on it, okay? So we've got our discourse marker, we've explained what the writer is doing in our point, we've ticked the box for word class, we've embedded our quotes, we've actually used a couple of quotes, which is fine as long as it's just 1 or 2 words and they're part of your sentence. We've defined what that word means, okay? We've suggested what those words show, and then we've talked about the effect on the reader. So the die section might be a little bit more jumbled up, but each bit is there, okay? Now I'm not going to read through any more. You can read through that in your own time, and like I said, you can get this as a free download on my website, acaexams.wordpress.com, okay? And you can see directly, obviously, because it's colour-coded, you can see how that links with the flowchart. Okay, I'd like to thank you for listening. Please give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Head over to Twitter and follow me at AQA Exams. You can actually tweet me any questions you have about the exam. And also, if you could subscribe to the channel, really, really huge thanks if you do. And there'll be loads of videos on soon for question 4, loads more for paper 1 and paper 2 for the AQA GCSE English language exam. So if you subscribe, you'll get the updates and you will see when they're uploaded. Thanks ever so much for listening. I hope to hear from you soon.